Hello everybody, I'm going to make a quick video regarding my book and user manual for life on Earth. We'll see where we go from there. So this is the cover of the book, and you can see it says a user manual for life on Earth, Enclosure version 2 for aliens by Lipschitz, that's me. And you can see there's a $1 bill which says Enclosure, and there's a $10 bill which says Enclosure 2 or Enclosure version 2. So Enclosure started about 500 years ago when in those days the peasants lived around the castles. The peasants weren't poor because they made everything that they needed. But with industrialization and with the invention of the steam engine and all those kinds of things, the wealthy landowners decided to invade the peasants' farms and make the peasants work in the factories. And so slowly the commons is what we share that's freely available, such as the Rondebosch Common in Cape Town, or Regent's Park in England, London, or Central Park in New York, America, or any other common land, mountains, rivers, etc. Common land became enclosed, became owned by relatively few people. And so poor people who lived on the land, looked after themselves, became destitute. They became dependent. And the $1 bill has got the symbol of the Illuminati, the all-seeing eye, on it on the left-hand side, as you can see. And the $10 bill says "We the people." And the $10 bill reminds the $1 bill that actually the people are in charge, because the people vote, the 10 people vote for the one person. So Enclosure 2 is not really Enclosure. It's actually the opposite of Enclosure. But I just thought I would call it Enclosure version 2 because the people are changing and the centralized systems are becoming decentralized. I called the book a user manual for life on Earth because we don't really know how to operate the Earth. We have relatively few people taking everything for themselves. And although we have some of these rich people spending a lot of money on philanthropy, a lot of the philanthropy is designed to actually make themselves richer. And then we have, for aliens with a hyphen, a lien, L-I-E-N, is a debt, a long-term debt. Companies, countries have liens. And so I played on the words alien and generated alien, which means a person without a debt. If we look at the page which has got the copyright and so on, it says that I researched this book from 1999 to 2020 when I formalized it. And the book was about 3 times longer than what you see here, because it included sections on how I know what I know, and then this book which is applied what I know. And some of my early reviewers said to me, you need to separate how you know what you know with implementing what you know. So this book is the implementation, the applied maths if you like, and the maths book still needs to be published, and that's going to happen soon. I published the ebook on Smashwords last year, and then I self-published the books myself this year, the 3 books that I've written so far, or published so far. And I had some help from Cheo Marketers, a South African company. It was printed by Woodwest Books. It's copyright to me, and here's the ISBN of the printed book. And then I've also written these other 2 books, The Torahs and Enlightenment Toolkit, Ramblings of a Lady, which were printed in 2021, although published originally in 2020. So Enclosure created centralized, bureaucratic, easily corruptible systems. David's user manual shows how we have entered Enclosure version 2, where we can all become aliens, i.e. people without lien, free people, and not wage slaves. David uses ancient wisdom and his own extensive experience to show the reader a new world that is already here. So whilst the World Economic Forum, governments all measuring things centrally, there's so much decentralization. There's so much ability for independent groups of people to make their own electricity, to deal with their own water, their own sewage, their own waste, make their own food. All these big utilities become decentralized. And therefore, we become poor again. Something that the rich and central governments are really scared of. They don't want poor people. They want destitute people. Or they want taxpayers. Because the destitute people will always vote for the government because they're getting their grants, whilst the taxpayers are mainly disorganized. So these centralized systems are easy to corrupt by big business or by private individuals who want things, who get the law changed for their own requirements. Corruption involves two parties, actually much more than two parties. The best book I've read on corruption, which explains how corruption works, is called The Smartest Guys in the Room. The Smartest Guys in the Room. It's about Enron. It's about how Enron corrupted their accountants, how they corrupted their supply chain, how they corrupted the legal profession, how they corrupted the government, how they corrupted accounting standards by creating something called mark-to-market accounting, where they took 15 years of profits and made it profits this year. But after 8 years, if the gas pipeline was cancelled or something happened to it, they didn't write back the losses. And so it takes 2 or maybe 7 to tango in a corrupt system. And while South Africans say that the South African government is corrupt, there's got to be other people that are also corrupt, and we see different systems falling apart. Enclosure version 2 is the opposite of Enclosure. It's where people say, I can make my own electricity, I can collect my own water, I can clean the water. I don't need a car in a work from home, WFH environment, especially with plagues, otherwise known as waves. We want to be free. Free people are people who can sleep at night and not worry about where they're going to get their food tomorrow. Really rich people have operations that run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And while they're sitting on the beach in the Bahamas or on the Greek islands, they've still got wage slaves working for them. And so there are relatively few of those people. Maybe there are millions. But there's, how many? 7, 8 billion people on the planet working in factories. Whether the factory is a shoe factory or a garment factory, or it's a computer factory, or it's a software factory. It's all people working for other people, instead of looking after themselves in community. So we'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about this page. We'll talk more about the ancient wisdom that I have learnt and that I continue to learn. And this world that is already here, this decentralized world, which doesn't require payments to a centralized bureaucratic system, where there's no possibility of corruption. I'll end with this comment. If you go and build a big power station like Medupi or Kusile, which were meant to take 5 years to build and are currently taking over 10 years to build, and you get a quote for 80 billion rand to build the power station, you don't know when you're late. You know that if the power station was meant to be finished in 5 years, then the first unit, and there's 5 units, then the first unit should be online maybe after 2 years, and then the other should be online every 6 months. That was the original plan. If you go and buy an air conditioner for say 10,000 rand, and your supplier says they'll deliver it on Friday, and today's Wednesday, then if they don't deliver it on Friday, you already know you're behind. If they come along and say, well, we spent 12,000 rand because we didn't realize that your air conditioner was so far from the wall, or from the room, or from the place where we needed to get the outside, we couldn't connect the outside system to the inside system directly, then you immediately know you're 20% over budget. And that only took 2 days. And if you go and install your own PV system or water system, and it's costing 150,000 rand, for example, each, and you get told it's going to take 2 days to install, and it's taking 3 days to install, you already know you're late. You know immediately that you're late. There's no corruption in this kind of system. There might be someone earning a commission, but there's no corruption. It's easy to see whether you're late or on time. It's easy to see if you're over budget. It's easier to see if the quality is there quickly. Is the system producing the power? Is it collecting the water? Is it cleaning the water? It's easy to see all that if you do it in a small way. But I'm not suggesting that people do it individually. I'm suggesting that people do it in what I call my power station, our power station, where we get together in groups of people such as the Milnerton community or the Grotto Bay community or the Llandudno community. These are Cape Town communities, or communities in other parts of the world, suburbs, businesses, Old Mutual, or in Pinelands. Why don't Old Mutual have the Old Mutual power station? Where they say to all the Pinelands employees, or the employees and the landowners and the business owners and the park owners and the schools, cover all your roofs in PV, put in battery systems. We will buy your electricity from you. Why don't they do that? Why don't they decentralize the system? Because we need to employ 15 million people in South Africa by 2030, only 9 years away. In 2010, the government said we need to employ 11 million people in the next 20 years. But now we need to employ 15 or 16 million people, because in the meantime 5 million people lost their jobs. And the reason that happened is because of a shortage of electricity. A massive shortage. Even if we're not load shedding, we're still load shedding, because Eskom should have 60 gigawatts on the grid by now, and it has 28. Eskom cannot keep up. Its grid is behind on maintenance. Its power stations are corrupt. They don't even work properly anymore. They're down. They're depressed. They're using coal, which is so full of sulfur and other pollutants. They're so far behind schedule. Some people say that we should have 160 gigawatts already on the grid, and my projections show that perhaps we should have 360 gigawatts. And where's the rest of this power if we only have 28, and we should have maybe 300? It's overseas. We export our raw materials. We import finished goods. There's so much opportunity in South Africa. If only we would work together. If only we were decentralized. If only we would realize that there doesn't need to be corruption. Thank you.